I was there was like 5 or 6 videos for me today. Like today, if you saw my calendar, it was like starting at 10 a.m.
Crazy.
And I'm
Nice.
like, how am I gonna have energy? And dude, I have more energy now than I have all day. So here's what I want to say. Number one, we the you have to look at the time frame of like the games that we're playing. So it's unfair sometimes to potentially criticize like I just this will be part of my justification is
Sure.
I'm playing a long-term game plan. Like I'm gonna bring you on conversations that you'll never be able
Mhm.
to have because I open doors. And part of
I
the
agree.
thing is like, yeah, you could watch the Rocket, and I actually what I told you over the phone, I actually think I made really good points to why like I was a little bit shocked at the end of that recording. I was like, dang, like I thought, and again, no disrespect, but I thought there was going to be harder, stronger points. And I was
Totally.
actually, maybe it was Rocky was on the show and he didn't want like, because he can be very strong, but I think he
Yep.
was like on the show. It's like he didn't want to like steamroll or disrespect me. And so I was actually shocked by some of the points that he was making. And one of the things I think I even said this, I was like, you're actually kind of making my point for me. You know what I'm saying? If your whole
Sure.
point is to IUL is like, hey, most IUL companies and people are trash.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I actually think we agree more than we disagree. Like if we can agree,
Sure.
like we can agree that the 95% of what's going on
Yeah.
is garbage.
Yeah.
Okay, now we can come to the table, and I'm not one of these people. I don't think you are on saying that all IUL is trash, but I'm saying if we can throw out 95% of the quote unquote garbage out there, I can
Yeah.
now come to the conversation. And then the other thing
Well,
that I'll say is all the ultra wealthy, they have like they're just in a different ball game than all of us from a standpoint. Yeah, they don't want to lose money, but like there's
well,
a lot of different levers that they have, whereas a lot of people who are doing IUL as their sole thing, it's a shame, and all their money's
yeah.
tied up in zero levers. So I just want to
Totally.
like that's like the framework that I'm coming
I get it.
from, and
I
I
get it.
actually stand by what I said. If you watch the entirety of it's not like I was kissing Rocky's butt the whole time.
No, of
I
course
thought
not.
I was
No.
pushing back, but I didn't do so in a way of like, hey, I'm gonna prove you wrong. I was doing so in a way where I was like gonna listen to him, knowing that I'm gonna host people like you and
Totally.
hopefully bring you two together and have there enough credibility to
I,
say like, hey, I want to moderate two people that have
and
that
build the
upfront.
trust with them that they know that you're not
Right.
going to like sabotage them in that moderation position. I get it. And
That's
so
and I would yeah.
the challenge is like I know that Rocky, like let me use an example, right? Like so Rocky was talking about well how mathematically IUL is just always better than whole life insurance. And he's like, you can't prove to me mathematically that whole life insurance is going to beat IUL. He said some things like, and what drove me nuts is the fact that he's trying to like position like I can't convert whole life insurance agents to IUL agents because they're basically a cult. You let him say that. Like he called all whole life agents a cult basically, right? That's so effed up, dude. Like he called us a cult. Well, what about the fact that maybe we just have different values and different beliefs, and we have different priorities on control, different priorities on the fact that it's a life insurance contract, and so the rules and the actual words in the contract matter, like those kinds of things. Mathematically, IUL is going to beat whole life every time. I'm not going to deny that when it comes to the current assumptions. So he spoke out of both sides of his mouth, like IUL is always going to beat whole life mathematically. And then he's like, but later in the video, oh, these cap rates, that's the biggest risk. If cap rates go down to 7.5% or 8%, you're screwed. IUL can't even compete. It's not even close. Not even close. And so like 2 weeks ago, I just did a video on one of the top IUL companies in the country nationwide, right? And so as I'm going through this video, I'm looking, they sold it with a 12% cap. It's now at a 7.5% cap. They're selling their new products at 11%. It basically vindicates everything I say about the fact that they have high cap rates at the beginning. They write off those cap rates as a marketing expense, and they lower the cap rates on in-force policies and keep selling new high cap rate policies, and they use that to finance the sale of new business. That's what they do. This is a standard practice in this business. He admitted it straight up.
I know he did. But do you realize how you know how crazy that was that I got him to share that on our channel?
It's
insane.
One
of the biggest. So, but then where's the argument?
Right.
It's like you wanted me to be like argue over. He called whole lifers a cult. In some case, there are some whole lifers like I don't. Again,
okay, yeah, there are,
okay,
and okay, yeah, you and I can agree on that, sure.
But here's the thing: is why let's not. That's not a pitch I need to swing in the dirt. Like I believe people are smart enough to be like, okay, Rocky, if that's your biggest point, got it. Like it's almost like the political system right now. People saying like, if all you can call is someone a bad word, racist, that's what you have. Great, that's your talking point. It seems to me like a weak talking point. If the reason you should vote for me is that I'm not this person, you know what I'm saying? It's just like,
sure.
Why don't let's talk about it? So that's the thought process. Like my goal in having Rocky was literally to have him lay things out. Let's go over the 14 points. I know I probably didn't push back on the whole time, but like I left that interview being like, wow, I cannot believe that went the way that I went, because it went exactly the way that I'd hoped. And yes, I was maybe a little bit softer in my approach, but overall, Rocky literally said most IUL companies are trash. Most people that sell IUL companies are wrong. And I was like, okay, so we can agree that 95% of what's going on is crazy. And he agreed with that. And so I'm like, okay, that's wild that we just like, it's like, I would never say that about whole life of saying like, I guess the way that it needs to be structured is important, but it's not like, even if you set up a whole life policy, it's not like it's going to blow up on you. You know what I'm saying?
That's exactly it. I mean, I always say that the main difference between, I mean, there's a lot of differences, but let's take an inexperienced agent, right? Somebody selling an IUL policy at target premium, who Rocky would call a bad advisor, right? Bad agent. And let's take a whole life agent selling something at base premium, 100% base, right? 100% target, 100% base. That's the equivalent in the two different types of policies, right? So if we take that and we take that into consideration, now what are we talking about? We're talking about, with IUL, time amplifies all problems. That product, that policy will lapse. It will have a problem. With whole life insurance, time solves and fixes all challenges. With whole life, the worst case scenario is you don't have as much liquidity in the first couple of years that you were hoping to have, you know? But from a long-term perspective, that policy is always going to grow. The dividends are always going to pay. You know, historically speaking, they always have. I have no reason to believe that they won't. Which leads me to my next point. At 24 minutes into your video, he was kind of continuing on his point. I covered a couple of my points already, but he was continuing on his point that IUL, that there's no way that whole life can ever come close to IUL as far as the returns. And my response to that is, IUL is never going to even be able to come close to whole life when they're reducing caps to 7.5% and 8% right now, and let alone they'll be lower. I know some cap rates with my old company, National Life Group, that were sold at 15, 16%. Now those caps are 6.75. Think about that. They were illustrated at 8.1. Now the caps are 6.75.
Yeah, it's insane.
It's insane.
Let me ask you this, Chris. At the end of that video, because you watched it, I haven't watched it since actually me recording. I believe he said something about he agreed that whole life would be better than most IUL trash policies. Am I just making this up, or did he?
Yeah, I don't remember him saying that. I remember him saying something about the fact that if you have a lot of distrust in the cap rate stuff, then the cap rate reductions, then maybe that's a reason you would buy whole life. That was how he phrased it.
Because this is he almost said it as a joke, but it's like it's kind of real. Where he's just like, if 95% of IUL setups or companies are wrong, like you would be better off having your money in whole life.
Yeah.
And that's my point exactly. Is like, And so we could talk about the 5%, and I don't disagree with this. I don't even care though. It's like I just did a video today on
Yeah.
the 11 benefits of life insurance, and the rate of return of life insurance was number 11. It's important, but it's like if you understand why life insurance, like why the benefits of life insurance, like the rate of return is just not a factor that I'm going to move the needle. Hence why I'm a big fan of whole life, because why would I? Because IUL is essentially saying, hey, we're going to put a lot of things on the table and for the hope to have something a greater rate of return, which I think is like crazy. And that's where, I mean, one of the points that we should talk about is income. That's like the whole talking point of IUL is higher income, higher income,
Well,
higher income, higher income. I think it's a problem to sell life insurance in that
well,
manner. And
you
I
know
think
the
I said that.
craziest, 100%. You know the craziest part? Like, so this is the whole craziest part about Rocky's argument to me, right? So he believes in IUL for tax-free income, right?
Yeah.
Okay, unequivocally, no doubt. He believes in it. Why does he believe in it? Because of the leverage that it provides, right? Because you can borrow at 5.3 is the example he used. So whatever company he's using, 5.3 is the current loan rate. And I think they have a 12% cap. So his idea is there's leverage there, so it works for tax-free income. Yet he'll go on the other side and start bashing Curtis Ray and MPI, which I'm against. I'm against both of them because that's the thing. I don't like IUL when sold for tax-free income because it just doesn't work. Eventually, it's going to blow up on you, and that's just the way it works. How can you actually, in full integrity, Rocky, come from the perspective of saying, I believe in the leverage for income over a 30-year period of time in retirement or a 25-year period, but I don't believe in leverage for MPI. I got news for you. If it works for your tax-free income, it will work for MPI. It doesn't work for either. That's just the math of it. If you want to start talking math, leverage is leverage is leverage, period. And when you're starting to talk about leverage, the difference is, yeah, you can do some things with the loan provisions and go to the wash loans and use the index loans or the fixed loans versus the index loans. But they're all these moving parts in IUL. If you do the fixed loan, well, then you're not going to eat into the net amount at risk, and you're going to have higher insurance costs. And there's like all these different things that are happening behind the scenes, and like it's crazy to me. Like the other thing that he said to me that said to you that like really got me going was his thing about like not buying into the whole dividend paying of the life insurance company, right? He said he'd rather choose a stock company because they're focused more on profitability than a dividend-paying whole life insurance insurance company. And I got news for you. That is the most bass-ackwards like way of thinking I could ever imagine. He's like, I don't buy into that conversation. How do you not buy into the conversation? And first of all, and he's like, if you don't believe that a stock company is going to keep the dividends going, or the stock company is going to keep the caps up for the IUL policyholders, how are you going to trust the whole life policy company, right? Well, the answer is when you're a whole life policy company, you are the shareholder. When you're a stock company, you're not a shareholder. They have a financial obligation. It's to the shareholders, not the policyholders, period. And so, yeah, they care about their profitability. When you have a profit, when you have an IUL, you are a profit center for that company. And so they will remain profitable. That company, I got news for you, will still be profitable and around, and your policy can be lapsed. Even if you paid your premiums and everything went well. Just look at the guaranteed columns of your policy. Not that I'm saying that you'll ever have to rely on the guaranteed columns, but never look at the current assumption. Always look at the midline assumption or somewhere between the midline and the guarantees, and that's where your reality will fall. And if you're comfortable with that, then God bless you. But I guarantee you, if you look at that and then you look at a whole life, you're going to go the whole life route every single time. Like, and the bottom line, oh, go ahead. You're muted. I don't know what happened. I can't hear you.
Sorry, I was
worries.
pulling up. It
worries.
kind of sucks. You're going live on your channel and I'm going live on, and so there's people commenting on both of our channels, and it's things that they're not all together. I have friends in both. So hey everybody, thank you. You're not annoying to the people chatting.
Awesome.
This is what I would say. The philosophy is totally different. That's the biggest takeaway. And even with the criticisms on Curtis Ray, which we can talk about in a second, it's like,
beyond philosophy.
but no, but hear me out here. One is very traditional retirement income, better widget for retirement. But it's like,
No,
that doesn't move the needle for me, Chris.
but
Like,
that's not even it, dude. He's a freaking attorney. He's an attorney who doesn't understand contract law, apparently. Like, that's what we're talking about. An IUL and a whole life insurance policy, they are contracts. In an IUL, it says, hey, here are all the moving parts. We control your destiny. Even if you pay your premium payments, we're a stock company. Our obligation is to our shareholders, not you. These are all the ways that we can move the needle to our benefit, to our shareholders' benefit. And in a whole life policy, if you're with a participating mutual company, you're participating in the profits. If the company is profitable and successful, your policy is going to be profitable and successful. That's it. The other thing that he said, and I got to say this before I forget it, that really just pissed me off, is he's like, my favorite study, he says, is the one that shows that whole life insurance, the actual returns in whole life insurance were 2% less than the way they were illustrated. All right, dingbat. This is where I get mean, unlike Caleb. All right, like, you did that during if you understand how whole life dividends are, or how whole life projections and illustrations are created, there's two variables. A, there's the assumption that the company is going to pay a dividend. All right, so that's fair. Every company you and I work with has paid a dividend every single year for at least 100 plus years. Fair enough. And then B, the other assumption is that the dividend paid is at the current level. So if you did a study from 1980, 1985, 1990 till today, yeah, the policy production is going to be less because dividend rates, the fixed rate market has come down, and so dividends have come down accordingly. If you don't understand what you're buying, you should never put your money into it. And yes, there's a lot of bad agents that were doing that and misrepresenting the same way that IUL agents are doing now. But the bottom line is, just because it underperformed doesn't mean it performed bad. It's always not did it perform bad compared to what? If you look at whole life over the last 30 years, it still outperformed bonds. Go talk to Tom Wall. He did a study on this, right? It is what it is. IUL is sold on the promise of upside potential and downside protection. Rocky, you've been doing this for how many years? Show me one policy that's been around for 10 or more years that has provided you the upside potential, that has performed better than illustrated in the greatest bull run of all time. Show me one. I'll give you 10 grand. One.
Yeah, and going back, because we're talking about the same thing, going back to the philosophy of contracts, even like it is ironic that an attorney who is mistrusting of a lot of things would choose IUL over whole life. That's the irony in the whole thing, because
crazy.
But so that's just, I'm calling that out. But also it just comes down to the philosophy. Like, you and I both enter into contracts in business and other things. So it's not like we don't live our life. I mean, you were a professional poker player. Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not like we're saying all risk is bad. And that's one of the things that I just need to lay out. If you want to invest in IUL, is probably a lot safer than other quote unquote investments out there. We can disagree on it. I know people that have gone belly up and gotten no money off of investments. I
know a lot of people that have gotten no money. I just interviewed the top IUL litigation attorney in the country, and you know how many people have gotten no money out of IULs?
Right, but I'm just saying, but that's not even the point that I'm trying to make. I'm trying to make the point that it's like, that's not where life insurance should be, in my opinion. Be. You shouldn't even be. It should not even be in the category of investing. That's the big difference. But that's the philosophy difference. If it's like, that's what I'm trying to say is like. And I think it was apparent, and pretty much in every conversation with IUL versus whole life, it's going to come down this way. That's why, if you don't seek to understand, hence Rocky's on the other side, thinks whole life is a cult, because he does not understand the principles and the philosophy that we're coming from. But to be fair, we are looking at that, and we may have maybe better talking points, but to be fair, they're not looking at it through the same lens. One's looking at life insurance as this is going to revolutionize retirement, which is ironic with what we can talk about Curtis Ray, because there's some language that you can't even use, or you need to be careful to use. If I'm any IUL marketer, I would be a little bit scared reading the Curtis Ray letter, because it's like, okay, there's a lot of things that
A
we
lot of
all
people.
are guilty of. So that's hitting pause on that. It just goes back to
Yeah.
the different philosophies. And I'm like, obviously, if you wonder where I stand, like I I'm in the I'm where I am kind of deal. Uh, it's not like I'm going to be going and pitching IUL, but it's just one of those aspects where I just find it very interesting, the different
Yeah.
philosophies, and I believe that people will be able to really see for themselves, and that's the hope of this whole channel. I don't know if there's going to be anything that, I mean, we can go through your other points, but I really think most of the points boil down into those things. And my goal when I have people on is to document, and then I need to
Yeah.
do a better job following up questions. And I just thought like the interview actually went well, because we're
Yeah.
opening up for future conversations. I want to
Sure.
be able to show him infinite banking, because he clearly doesn't like infinite
Doesn't
banking. So
understand it.
we
Yeah.
don't have a proper, when I say infinite banking, he thinks infinite banking, I think we're saying different things. So what
Sure.
we could do is we could
That's fair.
argue back and forth with each other, or I could be like, okay, let me seek to understand. And I bet you through that process, he may agree and say there might be aspects of life insurance, like whole life, that make sense. And vice versa. You and I believe that there's some aspects in universal life that make sense. So it's
Well,
like, it's not one of those things where it's like you're not even saying all index universal or universal life is evil. You're just
no,
like, but you're known as being the person that's going to call
but
out
it's
the BS.
evil. Sure, but it's IUL isn't bad. There are no good or bad products are products, right? Like they're designed to do a thing, and IUL can be a leverageable tool for certain elements of estate planning. That's it. Like it's not going to be good. It's not going to do for you what they say it's going to do for you from a tax-free retirement planning strategy. It's just not going to. And like anybody
Yep.
that says it will, the challenge is it's been around since 1997. Anybody that says it will has no actual real life practical example of it being successful, Rocky included. Show me one policy that's been funded that somebody's gone through 15 to 20 years of retirement with utilizing it for income. It hasn't happened. And so, and I said this when I spoke at your event, right? When did it be okay to speculate? When did it become okay to speculate with life insurance? We do not want to life insurance companies do one thing and one thing better than any other company,
Yeah.
any other financial institution in the world. They get you the greatest rate of return with the least amount of risk possible, and that's what they're going to do. Now, when you try to beat what they're going to, and that's what they do in a participating mutual whole life company. When you go into an IUL, what you're doing is you're saying, okay, company that does this thing better than any other financial institution in the world, why don't, instead of you giving me that dividend, why don't we take that and just gamble with it? Like, let's go buy some options and have fun, right? Like that's really what you're doing, is speculating. And so you're taking the entire principle, the entire reason that you would utilize a life insurance company as your foundation of your financial life, and you're lighting it on fire. Good for you.
Yeah.
You know,
I
like
yeah. Yeah.
what? You got a
Hazeltine
comment?
LLC. I just wanted to give you a shout out, man. It's great. I think
Yeah,
we've both been on his channel.
yeah.
He said, honestly, if I were an IUL advocate, I don't want Rocky to be the representative. I don't know, which I
No,
think
yeah,
I think actually Rocky would agree with that, because most IUL carriers probably can't stand him. So believe it or
sure,
not, I think we're saying a lot of the same things. Chris, can I take a step back here? Another
sure.
thing that I want to be like careful is we live in a crazy bubble where we're like literally talking about permanent life insurance versus another semi-permanent life insurance. Did you
Sure.
also like the fact that he didn't admit that it's
I,
permanent
I
life
do
insurance?
like the fact that he admitted that IUL was not a permanent life insurance, which
Just
was
want
a
to point that
really,
out. That was
yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
an accident. Okay.
You better
So
you better make a short out of that. That better be like an Instagram reel, like, yeah.
yeah, but that's not the point. Is we are in a space. Sometimes we forget.
Mhm.
Majority of the world thinks we're all like in a life insurance cult. Just to be straight
Yeah,
up, like
yeah,
majority of the world, the Dave
yeah.
Ramsey's
Mhm,
of the world, that like literally think what we do is
mhm.
insane.
Yeah.
So I also, and I'm trying to break out. I don't want to just be a life insurance channel. I think there's
No, I get it.
messages you and I have that I think
Yep.
are so much bigger than a product.
Totally.
And so
Totally.
I mean, nothing's for sure until it's for sure, but on Friday, we are going to be hosting by far the largest debate, period, that if we can pull this off, will open up doors for us to get into so many other
That's
aspects.
awesome.
And so I
Yep.
could pretty much bring on almost anybody if we can get these two individuals to actually show up live,
Yep.
which they both committed. So we'll see. But like that's what I'm excited to go for.
That's
But
awesome.
I need the credibility to be able to welcome people on and not try to trick them, because that's a good way to get views on one video.
Yeah,
But
but it's
I'm trying to play a different game. So that's the aspect. But I just want to remind ourselves, like in a world, if you zoom out, people would put Rocky, you and me, and all on the same team. If you zoom out, I know in the space, it's like religion. Everyone's infighting,
I know.
but it's like at the end of the day, we're still like a few percentages of people that actually think permanent life insurance has a place to put more than maybe just a term premium. And majority of the world thinks we're crazy. And so I'm all about freedom of speech and let's beat each other up. But sometimes we have to realize that in beating each other up, we're giving fuel to the people that, like when Rocky says 95% of IUL carriers are garbage, or when you and I say like, hey, when most whole life insurance, if it's not structured and used properly, blah, 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 we're literally just giving this, like, if I look back objectively, I'm like, I actually, if I was mainstream, probably would be anti-life insurance because of all the things that we know. You know what I'm saying? So I almost am taking the same talking point that Rocky's talking about, because it's hard for me to get super stoked if you take the average or the typical person in the industry and do what they're typically doing. So
Yeah, but in all fairness, you
I
could
don't
do that
even
in
know like
any.
we're landing the plane here. I'm like giving those point of views to further, like there's a lot of work for us to do. And
Yeah.
sometimes I think we're doing ourselves a disservice in the process of we're doing each other a service by calling things
Sure.
out. But we have to know that there's gonna be people that we're literally giving fuel to the same people that are attacking the life insurance space.
There's no doubt. But at the end of the day, I don't concern myself with that. Like I'm not in the game of trying to convince people of anything, in the sense of like, if somebody doesn't believe cash value life insurance is the way to go, then go do something else. The thing that perplexes me are the people and the trolls that watch my channel and watch your channel and watch Garrett and like and they just troll us and like, make all these comments, and they watch every single minute of every video I make, and they like want to tell me how wrong I am. And I'm like, how sad is your life that you disagree with me and you hate me so much yet you watch every minute of every video I make? That's just sad and pathetic. Go get a better life. I'm sorry. Like, like it makes me sad. Getting back to what you just said though, like I agree with what you're saying, but coming back to like the beginning of this and like you doing your thing and you interviewing and creating these conversations, I think it's all a beautiful thing, first of all. What I would say to you is that you gotta probe a little bit deeper, right? Like when he makes the comment, like, I don't see a place where whole life ever makes sense. Really, explain that to me. Like, dig deeper into that for me. Help me understand why. You know what I mean? Like, don't like you kind of allow him and Curtis Ray, right? Like you allowed them both to like kind of drop these bombs, and rather than injecting a question or a comment to get them to probe deeper and explain and get you into more of a conversation about that so you can create more clarity around the topic, you let them drop the bomb, make their point, and move on before you had a chance.
Yeah. I think that's feedback that I will take to heart, and I for sure can learn on being faster on my feet, pushing back, but not trying to be petty. And that's that's an art. That's an art of something that I'm hoping to be better at, because I admire people that are willing to have tough conversations, and by no means do I want to be the channel that just like I would hope that I could call people out or have a real strong, like hard conversation with people. And so like I didn't intentionally do that with Rocky. I would have to go back. It's like I'm like a person I would have to go look at the tape again.
I'll send you my
So
notes.
I'm taking your word that I said like I didn't give a follow up. Part of it is you have to pick your points, and that must have been a point that I didn't think I should have followed back up on, and maybe I should have. So that's something that I'm willing to go back and. But I am, when I first got into the space, I was a doormat, and I have gotten more convicted, and I've gotten more confident. And I mean, I don't know if you saw the video that I did with Dan Thompson. Like, that was not the most comfortable.
When did you do that?
Yeah, make another reaction video. But like, I think you'd be proud of like in person me pushing back. And like, can we talk about Curtis Ray?
Yeah, we can. Dan Thompson's lawyer sent me a voicemail the other day asking me to take a video down. That was pretty funny.
There you go.
It's not going to happen, by the way.
So the Curtis Ray, you watched the Rocky video at least twice that I've done.
Yeah.
Did you watch the video that I read, the letter that his attorney sent?
I didn't.
And did you watch the video that Rocky and I did on Curtis Ray?
I did not. I watched your video just interviewing Rocky. I watched your video interviewing Curtis after the letter.
Okay.
That's what I did.
So here's, and again, I would love to hear people's thoughts in the chat that have watched all three videos. I currently have 27 people watching live. I think on yours you have 16. So we have a total of like 40 people watching live. Okay. So here's the thing with Curtis Ray. I did a video, first video, literally reading the letter and like straight up calling him out.
Okay.
That was very uncomfortable for me to do, but I knew it was the right place. I knew it was the right thing to do for the situation that we're in. It's like, I could have just forgotten about the video or letter. I don't think they would have done anything. I could have taken the video down and not said anything, but I was like, you know what? This is an opportunity for me to quote unquote play the martyr. And so if they're going to play this game, the video is not that meaningful to me. It actually sucks. I did it like 2 years ago. So I'm just going to like expose and then redo the video knowing that there are some other things. So that's what I did. So if you watch that, you may think I'm soft, but I literally like read verbatim. And if you read the comments, he gets crushed in the comments. So that went on. And then I brought on Rocky, which we just went through the cease and desist.
Right.
And, you know, whether you love Rocky or you hate him, he doesn't mix his words. Okay. So two things hammer. And then so Curtis reaches out and he said, Caleb, and he reaches out as like hey, someone on my team saw a video. And I was like, okay, you probably watched the video, but I didn't. I was like, sure. All right, we'll just play that game. Yep. And he's like, hey, I would like to come on, because I did invite him to come on. I said, Curtis, like, if you don't want to hide behind a letter and you actually want to have a conversation, would love to have it. And to his credit, he did reach out, and he did say, like, I don't want this to be a got you interview.
Yeah.
And so I agreed to have it in good faith. Now, part of the thing that I agreed is that I wasn't going to edit. I wasn't going to edit things. And in hindsight, I wish there's some things I could have chopped off because it was a long video. And like, especially what he said in the end, I think he's got to be really careful. But the way that he talks, I can see people getting excited about your IUL and alternative investing. And even like, I asked one question, but I didn't really follow up of like, it makes no sense, like this infinite loop. If it was so amazing, why don't you just keep on doing it? You know, why do you
everybody
just do it
everybody would do it?
You know, that's what I did say that, but he gave an answer and I didn't like, I was just like, we're already an hour and some in. I just like, let's just stop talking. So so you watch that and yeah, for sure you can look at elements, but you have to see that in a trilogy of like 3 videos. And we did call back to like, that's why he's coming on. And so I know I wasn't perfect there, but I did have like ask him certain things. And so I wasn't like after the video with Curtis, I wasn't like this was the best video of all time, but I covered everything I wanted to cover. It was twice as long that I wanted it to be, but I was like, I can't edit it in good faith. And so we're just going to post it. So I don't know what the comments of people, if they're backing me up or not, but those are my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would just say this, like the challenge for me, and this is the challenge for me, and this is the difference between, like, I understand the moving parts of IUL and all this, like, way better than almost anybody. You know what I mean? And that's why I've written my new book. I just got it. Oh, by the way, my new book, IUL Exposed, is going to be coming out around Christmas time. So just be ready. That's going to be fun.
It's a great Christmas gift.
It's going to be a great Christmas
At
present.
Chris's
under
house,
the tree.
under the tree is IUL Exposed.
So, yep, exactly. So if you want to get your favorite IUL agent a Christmas gift, go ahead. But the the challenge for me is knowing what I know about these things. I get fired up about it. You know what I mean? Because what I know to be true is you take a Rocky, you take a Curtis Ray, you take a David McKnight, you take a Doug Andrew, you take any of these people that have sold IUL long enough, and you can't. There's one of two things that are happening. Either they're not good advisors, not good agents, and they're not doing annual reviews, and they're not checking the results, and they're not looking at the in-force illustrations, they're not serving their clients properly, or they're seeing the fact that their policies for the overwhelming majority of their clients are underperforming what they sold them. So it's one of two things. Either one is horrible, right? And so the fact is, I know this to be true, and nobody's going to convince me of it because I got too much data that proves my point. And so when you get a guy like Curtis Ray on, who goes and talks, and believe me, I watched the video, I'm like, God, this guy's smooth as butter. It's like he knows what he's doing. He's classic. He knows how to play the game. He's a great sales guy. You don't build the marketing channel and the following that you have like him without being that way. And he says all the right things, but there's like 0% of me that believes he doesn't know the fact that what he's doing is screwing people over. Like, that's my opinion. That's my opinion.
I actually think he believes in what he's doing.
Bullshit.
That doesn't make it right. That doesn't make it right.
So okay, so let's go here.
I think it makes it more dangerous. Truly believing that he's doing right by humanity. I think that's actually more dangerous than someone that because deep down, like, you will go through a wall because you believe that you're gonna set someone free. Whereas that's we can agree to disagree, but I'm not giving him a pass. I actually think you're more at guilty in some aspects, but I don't believe that he believes that he's screwing people. I think he's too talented to why would he do that? You know what I'm saying? Like, why would you in good conscience do something that you know is not right and be so bold about it? You know that's not going to age well. I can't hear you. Maybe it's on my end. Yeah, I don't know if people can still hear me. Maybe someone in the comments, if you can still hear me, let me know. I know okay. I think Chris's battery is going out, so I'm just going to continue to talk. Obviously, really, really appreciate all the people that are staying on late at night to watch us live.
Testing. All right, we're back.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, my battery died.
I'm so humbled, by the way, that people are here making this. You guys,
that's amazing.
This is so cool that so many people are here watching us. So humble.
Joel, you're such funny. Like, all I was saying yeah, no, dude, it's awesome. I love this stuff. I love talking about this. I think, it just to finish that point, move on and talk about whatever. But like, I just look at it, and the reason people wonder why I get so fired up, and they think I'm like just like this angry guy, like looking to attack Curtis and like whatever. And you can maybe defend me a little bit on that because you know me better than almost anybody in the industry. But what I'll say is this: is like, I get fired up because in my heart of hearts, I believe one of two things is happening. Curtis, either, as an example, Curtis, Doug, like all these guys, I put them all in the same group at the end of the day. They all do it in their own way, but they either know what they're doing and they're just taking the cash grab, or they're not paying attention to the actual results of their clients, which is a breach of like responsibility. And neither one is acceptable. And the not paying attention just is incompetence. And how do you move forward in complete incompetence yet act like you know everything about everything, right?
Yeah.
And so And that's one of the reasons, like, I did not create the IUL challenge just to be like, nobody could win this. I fully expect at some point in time, somebody's going to win the IUL challenge, just to put that out there. It is not an impossible thing. Like Caleb, my IUL challenge, where I'm going to pay somebody 10 grand if they win, was designed to create a conversation about the fact that it's not that IUL can't work in a vacuum. It's that if it's going to not work 95% of the time, what are we actually doing? You know what I mean? Like, and it's easy for somebody that's sold 1,000 policies to cherry pick 2 and 3 policies, right? That have worked, maybe 10 policies, 1 to 5% of the policies they've ever sold that have worked, and put them out there and market them. That's one of the dangers of social media, right? Like, is being able to do that. But when I know, like, and I've seen the results, you know, and people send this stuff to me all the time, and I've shared a lot of videos on how this all works. And Rocky even confirmed with the reduction in cap rates, the way that they do that, this is one of the reasons that these things happen and why I'm right. Like, this is the thing. And so when I know this to be true, like, I'm a bit of a crazy guy. When I believe something to be true, I'll run through a freaking wall. Like, and I'll fight that fight until I'm dead. Ultimately, is what it comes down to, you know.
You'll have a
But I'm
death
doing it
benefit
because I want to help people and serve people, not because I want to tear Curtis down. It's not about Curtis or Rocky or anybody. It's the people that I'm trying to help.
We're saying the same thing. You're not. What I'm almost saying is you're not trying to just troll people to troll people. You believe in what you believe in, and knowing what you know, it would be irresponsible for you not to say things if you just wanted to not rock the boat. And all I'm saying is we actually have more things in common than maybe someone outside. Like, someone outside could be like, Caleb's soft, Chris is sticking to his guns. Great. You're entitled to your opinion. Give us 5 years, and you would be shocked on how many things I think are going to be able to, how many collaborations are going to be able to happen, and how many conversations are going to be able to happen. I'm still hoping to get you and your best friend Dave McKnight together and have a conversation. I think out of anyone in the space, I'm the one that can pull that off.
I did a live video yesterday. And he actually commented on it because I did a list. Did you see this live video I did yesterday?
I did not, no.
So I went to ChatGPT and I asked ChatGPT the top 10 IUL channels to follow on YouTube if you wanted to actually learn about how IUL works. And ironically, I was ranked number 1, and I did this totally objectively. No baiting. I even shared the prompt that I used just to show I didn't do anything. I came up number 1, and you came up number 2. And the reason you came up number 2 is because I've been on your channel so many times. It even said that in there. It was great because we've collaborated. Because I've done so much video education on for IUL, but it's because we actually do a deep dive conversation about IUL. And I asked, I'm like, it's interesting. David McKnight was ranked number 5, right? And so,
what did he say? What did he comment on your video?
So he's just like, because when I mentioned his channel at number 5, I read what ChatGPT said, because I asked ChatGPT to give me the explanation of why they're ranked where they are, and so I read that and I said, it's like I don't really agree with David, and we've had a little beef, and so he did this video on me. So he did this comment where he's like, well, to be fair, I did one negative video on you, and my last video is actually quite complimentary, and I've got another video coming out that's kind of in the same vein. And I'm like, that's great, David. And I responded, I'm like, that's great. I'd still love to have a live conversation with you. We're basically neighbors. You live in Puerto Rico, I live in the Dominican. I could take a ferry to your house now. Like, let's go.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Hey, yeah, I love it. Joel, I'm getting some notifications that on Instagram, no one can see us, but I don't know how relevant that is right now. But it's both of our faces are chopped off, so that's
Instagram.
Anyways, yeah, I gotta love the IG. So how do we want to wrap this up? I would ask everyone that's watching, stay tuned for Friday's live stream. If we can pull this off, it's going to be the biggest video in BetterWealth history. that's it. And I think we're pretty dang close to making it happen.
That's awesome.
Chris, appreciate you. What else? I mean, what else? I
I'll
knew
shoot
that
my
this is
notes.
how this conversation was going to go. And so it's like,
Yeah,
I love that you were willing to do it live so that people could literally see, like, we're not, if we had 0 microphones and cameras, we would be saying the same thing.
totally.
That's
Yeah,
that's
no,
what I love about you, is there's so many people that are like, okay, am I live? All right, I'm not gonna talk the certain way. I'm gonna stick on my script, and that's not you. And so I love that, and that's where
yeah,
I want to go. Like, do I have some filter when I'm live? Maybe a little bit, but I believe a true, authentic, free person is themselves, regardless of cameras on and off. That's one thing I admire
yeah.
about you, and that's something that I'm
Thank you.
continuing to grow in. And I think there's a lot of opportunity. There's a lot of
Totally.
opportunity in both paths that we're going, and I believe that both of us are going to be necessary for some things to happen. Like, I actually
100%.
think you need to continue to double down on what you're doing, and
Yep.
I'm not looking at you and saying you should change your style. Like, no, there needs to be people like you, and
Hmm.
you actually are going to have benefits because of that. But then you
Hmm.
also are going to get painted a certain way because people are going to see
That,
you the way that they're going to see
yeah.
you. People are going to see me the same way. They're going to see me
Hmm.
the way that they're going to see me, and it's going to open
Yeah,
up conversations, but it's also going to shut down conversations. And that's the
for
cost of
sure.
putting your face out there.
Yeah, and that is the hardest part for me, is when I get painted, because I am actually a pretty easygoing, sensitive guy. I know a lot of people have a hard time believing that, but it's hard for me. I
You
mean,
would
I
say
think I've,
sensitive.
yeah,
You care, but it's not like you're.
I no, I care. Like, I'm a very heartfelt,
Yeah,
caring guy. I'm not sensitive. I mean, like,
yeah,
I got
yeah,
thick skin, like whatever. But
yeah,
it does get to you like at some point in time when everybody's just like trolling you and ripping you, and like, because the reality is, I know, like, I've got hundreds of thousands of IUL agents, and I'm like one guy, like the one guy that's doing the thing that I'm doing, and I realize the benefit in that. But it's not about the benefit. It's about, like, just doing what I feel like I'm called to do. And the fact that we've launched an IMO and done all these different things, and we have a lot of agents joining the team and all this stuff, none of that was really intentional. That was all kind of like because of the content that I was doing. People kept coming to me being like, oh my gosh, you're right. Like, I can't believe this. What do I do? Can you help me? And I was like, no, I can't help you. I got nowhere to help you. Like, and so eventually I got tired of doing that. So I said, all right, we're going to just create an IMO so we can create a landing place, to help and go from there. And the only other thing I would say, before I forget, is, like, I had a lot of people reach out to me about this. Like, I had people commenting on my videos telling me, like, oh my gosh, you got to debate Caleb because now he believes in IUL. I had people texting me and messaging me being like, dude, you got to talk to Caleb. I know you guys are like family. Like, he's getting soft. Like, you got to set him straight. And my feedback to people is just like, listen, like, and I said it today, and Caleb just said, I'm gonna speak my mind no matter what. And I'll give my coaching, I'll give my feedback, I'll give whatever. Caleb's a grown man. He knows what he's doing. You're one of the smartest 20-something-year-olds I've ever met in my life. Like, nothing Caleb does is without specific intent. We're all human. We all are just learning as we go, myself included, him, you, everybody. And so, let's not be so critical of each other when we're trying to do good things, like, at the end of the day. And I do know that you're doing this with a very long-term vision in everything, and that the thing I love about you, probably more than anything, is you're like your growth mindset, and you're always looking to improve and expand, and
right.
just, it's all about creating value. That whole value creation cycle is what it's all about. And so,
Yeah.
it's amazing. And so, anybody that thinks Caleb's been soft, and I know I'm kind of like, I've stoked a little bit of that because I called him soft. Because let's face it, you were being soft. But, like, that, just what I tell my kids, just because you were mean in that moment doesn't make you a mean person, right? Like I say to my kids all the time, it's like, you're not a mean person because you did something mean. Like, you're not a soft person because you did something soft. Like, it's a learning
Yeah.
opportunity. You're going to grow from it and go from there.
Chris, if you could have a conversation with any person, and if I could
Any
set that up, who would it be?
Ha! Any person?
Any
Like,
person, like,
any IUL
around
person?
this subject, around this
Around
subject. I'm
IUL.
not.
Around IUL. Um, one person, Doug Andrew.
Doug Andrew. So
Never gonna
over
happen.
David McKnight.
Yeah, Doug Andrew will never do it though, because he's done. David McKnight, I would love to have a conversation with. And honestly, at
Okay.
this point in time, I think my conversation with David McKnight would be very cordial. We would agree to disagree on some of the use cases of IUL, and there are some points that I'd love to push back at him, not to be aggressive or not to fight with him, but to really just hear his answer and to see how well he
Yep.
really understands it.
Okay. Well, we'll get this clip over to him, and we'll see if there's
Cool.
any interest. And it would
Okay.
be an honor to be a part of that. And then we will we'll see if we can get Doug. I don't know. I guess I got to be careful what I say in the live stream. I have some connections to Doug, and we'll see if
He's
they
not
go
gonna do it.
anywhere.
He's not going to do it.
There's too much. Our channel's too big. You do 2 searches, and you're like, yeah.
No, he's
upside.
just he's not going to. He's too exposed. He's got too much to lose. Like, I'm doing a whole series with a litigation attorney, and now I'm actually like doing some work to help him evaluate IUL policies that he's in lawsuits about, and we're doing some things. And he was telling me, and he said it publicly on my last video with him. He's successfully sued and beat Doug Andrew in over 100 policies.
Yeah, that's huge. Can we go a little bit longer on this live stream?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm here.
So
I'm with
I
you.
watched the video that you did with the attorney.
Yeah.
And I don't think the guy likes life insurance at all.
He does. He doesn't
Okay,
have
it didn't sound like that.
No,
okay. It didn't sound like that, and it sounded like. And I just wanted to say this because I know you're like piling on me. Be careful.
Yeah.
I know, to your credit, you did push back on a couple things, but just be careful because, like, it sounds like it was definitely. I was like, dang, like, making some points about licenses and making points about commissions and making points on like all the talking points to why people are getting ripped off on life insurance. And I think what you guys are doing are great, but I was just a little bit surprised on. It seemed like he was a hater of insurance.
Listen, he's an attorney, so I think attorneys are wired a certain way to be haters. Like, so before he became an IUL litigation attorney and had that become like a forefront of his business, and he still does both. And he's a securities litigation attorney, so he goes after investment people, Ponzi schemes. IUL is just one of the more recent things that he's gone after. And it's been since 2018 that he's been doing it, and it's just grown into this beast of a machine, and he's just built a passion about it for many of the similar reasons that I have, and that's why he and I connected so much on it. It's not that he's against life insurance. He's against the way that life insurance is sold a lot of the times. Him being an attorney, he and I, you're right, that's going to be a line that I'm going to have to toe carefully because I push back at him a little bit, it just from the perspective when he started saying some of those things, I was like, listen, it's just it's a values thing, right? Like it's but he wasn't wrong either,
no,
for you and I, we can't.
We're all saying the same things, and that's where it's like there's shades of gray there. It's just a lot of his talking points are people that want to abolish like the whole. And this is maybe a question. Do you believe IUL should have a securities license?
100%. Like, I think if IUL stays in existence, I think it should have a securities license. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If for no other reason, it puts it in the same class as VUL, which, whatever.
I'm cool with that. That's another talking point that we should do. I think the problem is it's a slippery slope when you start getting regulations. Then you know what I'm saying? But I think the reason why you have regulations is to protect people, and I think you, out of all people, have seen that people have taken advantage of this.
Totally.
It's just I don't want my initial reaction. Same that goes with freedom of speech. I hate your speech. Let's figure out a way to regulate your speech because your speech is hurtful. But we don't realize that if we regulate your speech, it bundles up. Now we can use that to go after our people. So it's just one of those things where I have like a love-hate relationship with regulation. When I say love, I don't really have much of a love for regulation.
I don't have a love for it either. I'm like deregulation to the T, but I think from a licensing perspective, that's different than regulating, right? Like it's, there's like we have licenses because there's a certain level of expertise that should be required. Like the reason a life insurance license is easy to get is because technically speaking, it shouldn't have that much of a negative consequence if you screw it up, right?
That's a fair
know,
thing to talk about. I think it's
you
a
know,
yeah.
I
I
look
mean, you
at it
could
and
also make an argument for why do you need to be licensed in general to do certain things, and that's a
okay,
form of regulation. Like it's
that's
a license in
sure. Like,
itself
why
is a
does somebody
form
got
of
to get Yeah. Why does somebody got to get licensed to cut my hair, right? Like if they know how to
right.
cut hair, they should just be able to cut my hair. Okay. Like maybe there's some health reasons or whatever. I could tell you, I think the barber cutting my hair in the Dominican probably doesn't have a license. He does a great job. He does better than anybody I've ever run in the United States. Like, but
Yeah.
I'll say this is like about the regulation about IUL specifically about getting licensed and having needing to be a registered rep to sell it. VULs are required because of the fact that you're doing mutual funds inside of the UL
Yep.
chassis, so you need to have a securities license. Traditional UL was a fixed product, so you didn't need it. IUL is options. They're using options to do it. So if you need to understand options, or if you should at least understand options
You
before
should
buying an
understand it.
IUL, you should
Yep.
understand it. And if you need a license to sell options, a securities license to sell options, which you do, well, then you should
Yep.
need a license to sell an IUL because they're using options inside of the indexing strategy to do it. So it's not as simple as everybody puts it out. That's one of the biggest problems with IULs. It's sold as a very simplistic product when in fact, like Robert, the litigation attorney, was like looking at this. He goes, "I've done lawsuits on derivatives and like all these crazy things," and he goes, "IUL is infinitely more complicated than anything I've
Yep.
ever litigated over." Right?
Yep.
And so if you've got this like securities litigation attorney that is pivoted to the IUL space and is saying IUL is more complicated than derivatives,
Yeah.
WTF?
But okay. So I'm gonna read some of the comments. So the Financial Advocacy podcast,
Oh
which
boy.
you guys should all follow, he said that the option strategies are in the general account, not the policy itself. It's a big difference.
Yeah, of course.
I think that
Of
is
course.
fair, but I do agree
Sure.
that people should understand things. Julian said having a license for IUL would be a major blow to MLM companies. Not a bad thing.
Totally.
I
Not a bad
so
thing.
yeah, that would
Although
put some of the
Primerica
companies.
does just fine.
Yeah. And then, Leo says that there's plenty of cooks with FINRA licenses. I can say that for a fact. Jeffrey, we appreciate you commenting. He's got, he loves the content that David McKnight talks about in the Guru Gap book.
I
But
gotta read
I
that
think
book
there's
still.
there's a lot of good stuff. So I just want to thank you all. I'm definitely going to go live more because I think there's something really cool
We
brewing
should do
here.
something more
And
regularly, you and I.
I
It'll be
was
fun.
told on Instagram is a total disaster. I've gotten plenty of text. Hey, and FYI, formatting on live. So, hey, it is what it is. That's part of swinging is sometimes you strike out, but on YouTube
Yeah.
it seems to work well. So, Chris, I love you, man. I appreciate the
You
work
too,
that you're
brother.
doing,
You
and
too.
I know that this won't be the last video we do. And my hope is to
Anytime.
start lining some people up and having like the Pierce Morgan style conversations.
Let's go. Let's do it.
So
All right, brother.
keep throwing the punches, okay?
All right.
Don't get soft. Don't get soft on me, okay?
I don't think I have that in me.
All right. See ya.
See you, man.
All right, Joel.
All right. My team delivered my dinner while we're
Fun hearing crickets. It's like,
Are you hearing crickets?
yeah.
You can hear the crickets in the background?
Yep.
Oh, that's louder than I thought it would be. Okay. I'll let you. I don't know, man. Every time I've ever tried to go live on Instagram using one of these programs like Restream, it's always jacked up.